Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH1502 Introduction to Community Media, and just in this short video I'm going to give you an overview of the topics that we're covering in the 8th lecture of our lecture programme, which is called Voices and Self-Expression. And actually it's kind of more about independent and alternative media, but how those voices and how we express ourselves through non-mainstream forms of media and community media. So what we're going to look at is we're going to kind of identify a set of criteria through which community media works, which is different from professionalised forms of mainstream and commercial media. And really what we're looking at is kind of the impact that community media has on community development and the sense of social change and social development. And the role that community media plays as a facilitator or as a part of the process of community solidarity and some community engagement or community cohesion, however it's described. So we'll look at some ideas and some examples of different media producers, which can give us a bit of insight into how and what different and a range of alternative voices from different political and theoretical and social positions might have on the kind of topics that we engage with as community reporters and producers ourselves, media producers ourselves. So we'll kind of look at the idea of what alternative media is. We'll look again at the idea of kind of start to develop this in a bit more detail about what a kind of sense of participation in community media is about and what we can do to facilitate and support and help a sense of participation, because what we understand by community and alternative or DIY forms of community media production is that there's a kind of civic participation, there's this kind of sense of civic engagement that we're trying to express a point of view which doesn't normally get supported in mainstream media. But the context for this, the cultural context, is really important. And activist media, to use another buzz phrase, lots of buzz phrases today, is kind of developed around a kind of, it's a debate, it's a deliberation, it's part of a conversation, it's not static and it's not fixed, and it's very difficult to signify that this is to identify that this is a form of media that has clear regulated boundaries. It's not. It's much more open. There's lots of things overlap. There's lots of things that are diffuse and kind of intermix with each other. So activist media, DIY media, alternative media, community media, they're all kind of terms that kind of revolve around each other and evolve with each other. So we're looking at things like kind of grassroots participation is often put forward as one of the main ways in which community media develops and approaches the approach to the media, which is a bottom-up rather than a top-down kind of approach. And if we want to put this into a kind of political context, we'll say that community media can be regarded as something which is part of a counter power against mainstream media, but it calls for active democracy, active deliberation, and to do that, community media generally opts for a kind of depoliticization, a kind of a sense that the expertise that you need to work in mainstream and professional media isn't the only way that you can develop a view of these things and a practice around these things. So what are the alternatives? What's the alternative ways, the outlets, the kind of the alternative ideas that people have about media, and what's the context that they're driven from that encourage kind of debate and discussion and a kind of popular resistance to mainstream forms of media. And we see this a lot on the internet with things like memes and mashups and parody, but maybe we want to go a step further and beyond parody. We can't just take the Mickey out of things. We've got to offer something constructive and positive as an alternative to the things that we're disillusioned with, if you like. So what are the tools that we need to do this? What's the kind of, what kind of do we need to invest in in order to bring about an active form of democracy and an active form of participation? So what's the kind of role for citizens in this? And what's the kind of power that people have over their own sense of expression and self-identification, their sense of belonging, their sense of engagement with their community through and with their media forms. So we're trying to put this in the context that there's a whole load of divergent viewpoints out there. Is that there's a kind of, we've got to contest with distorted views as well, fake news, if you like, and that the ground isn't stable, the ground shifts all over the place. So what does community media do to get people into producing their own content? Well, there's a kind of, we've mentioned deprofessionalisation, but lowering the barriers to entry and expression is very important. Doing things which don't require technical sophistication, and encouraging and enhancing the kind of social connections that people have, so that what they do and what they produce is meaningful to them and the community that they are part of. And if other people like it, that's an advantage, that's great, but it's not the most essential thing, because what's typically essential is the kind of sense of what people, what or how people get a sense of identity and a sense of belonging from the media that they've produced and that they facilitate. Right, the notes are up on the DMU Commons wiki, so that's at wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk. If you've got any questions about the notes, best thing to do is to use the DMU Talk portal, which we've set up, which is talk.our.dmu.ac.uk. Tag me or John into a post. I'm sure we'd be great to have a debate and a discussion online via the Talk portal, by the Talk website. You can put that on your phone as well. You can download it to an Apple or an Android phone. If you go to your app stores, just look for Discourse is the name of the application. And then you log in at talk.our.dmu.ac.uk. But I'll see you at the lecture on Monday.